Good afternoon, everyone. It's Richard Moore, and welcome to the July 2022 episode of the Business Lincolnshire live show. If you've been following these shows over the last year and a half, then you'll know we set the shows up really as a Q&A to answer questions for small businesses across Lincolnshire and Rutland. Just share with you the support that's available to you, and also share some ideas of how to help your business grow better. Today's show is focused right at the start of your journey, so setting up in business. So we've got a really interesting show today. We've got 4 guests coming on. We've got John Owens from NBV, and John's going to share some of the support that NBV can give you as you're setting up in business and those first steps that you're taking to business. We then move to John Holliday from the Prince's Trust. And again, the Prince's Trust have a raft of support that they can give people, certainly in those early stages when you're setting up in business, but also the mentoring that goes on after those first few months as well. So John will talk about that. We've then got 2 business owners coming on board. We've got we've got Alice Anders, who runs Tinger's Childcare. She set up 3 months ago in business. So again, Alice will share in a video. I had to record a video because she was working today, but I've done a short video with Alice talking about those early months. She's 3 months into the process now. So again, she's right at the beginning of the journey. And then we've got Travis Speak from Elemental Landscapes. Now, Travis has been in business around a year now. So again, Travis is going to share with us some of the things he's learned, some of the challenges he faces, and the ways he's overcome those challenges as well. So let's get started, and let's bring in John Owens from NBV. Hi, John. How are you doing?
Hello there, Richard. Thank you very much.
Good. And so for those people who haven't met you before, John, can you just give a bit of a potted history about yourself and how you've got involved with businesses?
Yeah, well, I've worked in business support in Lincolnshire since 1997 with a predecessor organisation called Business Links. And I also work for myself as well. But I've been working for NBV in this tranche for the last 6 years. And I'm what's called a business advisor. And I basically work across the county, but focusing particularly on East and West Lindsey and the Boston area. But I do cover other bits. I've got 2 colleagues who also work in this county. But NBV actually covers the East Midlands in its entirety. So there's other advisors like myself based in the city of Nottingham or city of Leicester, or up in the Derbyshire, excuse me, the Derbyshire Peak District, etc. So we're all over the place.
Right, and who's NBV aimed at? What's the support aimed at?
We've always been aimed at principally at sort of a full range of businesses. So we work with businesses from the very, very first. I've got a vague idea I might want to run a business on, whatever is business for me, sort of things, right through to businesses that have been going for a very long time. About 6 months ago, I finished working with a firm that's 175 years old. So everybody in between, really. Which is, quite a range of businesses. I tend to focus on the existing businesses because we've got a program called Starting in Business, which focuses on the newbies, the ones who are thinking about starting. And that's a free support package. All the work we do with businesses, it's free, it's confidential. The Starting in Business program is a 3-day course in which they learn just about everything to do with how you start a business and the sort of things that you might want to think about. The real aim of it isn't actually, funny enough, to start a business. It's to see whether people want to start a business now that they actually understand what running a business is like. Because although it's a good thing for people to have their own businesses, it's not for everybody.
And that's a 3-day workshop, you said. And that's right. Is that face-to-face or is it online?
They're both. I mean, we used to do them just face-to-face, but after COVID, the only way we could deliver them was online. So what we've done is there's a mixture now. So some of them are face-to-face and some of them are online. And it goes down well because obviously you can get businesses from areas that are quite difficult to serve. So we've had obviously businesses from places like Mablethorpe, which would be very difficult to run a course in because there wouldn't be enough people. So it doesn't really matter if they're there or if they're in, the Wold somewhere. Or the bottom end of the Fens even. It doesn't really make any difference.
And those 2 days, they're spread over, or the 3 days are spread over a couple of weeks. Is that right?
Yeah, the first 2 days are in the same week usually. It depends if it's a bank holiday, but it's usually in the same week. And then the 3rd day is usually the week after. Again, depends if there's bank holidays or such in the way. So they're, as I say, they're actually quite intensive days, and you spend quite a large amount of time discussing with the delegates, what their feelings are about what they're going through and how they think their businesses could work and so on. So it's not just a chalk and talk exercise, it's really discussion based on your own needs.
Yeah.
And again, totally confidential because everybody agrees to that right at the start. So at the end of that, you'll come out with either a business plan or more normally the foundations of a good business plan, or you might come out with the decision, well, actually, it's not for me or not for me right now. That's fine as well.
And Travis, who we're hearing from later, you actually helped him develop his business plan, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah. Travis didn't actually go through the starting business thing, but he was at a sort of slightly later stage.
Yeah.
But I do work with businesses as well. If they're actually already developed a bit of a business, like Travis was I think his business was about 2 months old when I got involved with his business. But sometimes you might find that you work with a business as a business advisor who've been going for a very long time and they've got particular problems that relate to how old they are. For example, fairly common one in businesses that have been going a while is succession planning. When one member of the family set up a business and he or she's decided, well, actually, I've had enough of it, I want to retire. But so how do we then pass it on to the children, or in some cases the grandchildren, in fact, actually, of the business owner? So how do we go about doing that in the most sort of efficient and logical way?
So following those 3 days, if people are setting up their business, then there'd be ongoing support and mentorship after that as well.
That's right. Basically, we plug them into the advisor network. So if the person's based in, say, Horncastle or wherever it might be, then it's likely to be me, because Horncastle is obviously in East Lindsey, part of my patch. If they were based in the centre of Lincoln, then my colleague Mike would probably work with them. We're not particularly precious because obviously if somebody's on holiday and we need to talk to a client urgently, we'll swap around. But it's just generally easier if you work with people within your own area.
Yeah, and that's not that advice and that mentorship isn't just limited to startup businesses and people starting up. Anyone can apply for
anybody at all. The only limitations that we've got is we can't work with businesses with more than 250 employees, which aren't that actually many in Lincolnshire. We can't work with the RAF, for example.
That's a fair sized business, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's a fairly hefty business at that stage.
Okay, and before we finish, just what pieces of advice could you give people who are watching the show and they're thinking of starting business, or they're in that early few weeks of doing it?
I think if you've got doubts and uncertainties about it, even if you're at the stage where I'm thinking I might want to do it, but I'm not sure, certainly have a look on our website, which you'll give the details for at the bottom of the screen right now. It's on the training section, and just put yourself on the starting business courses. If you're actually past that point and you've got some uncertainties about, your business in general, please talk to some business advisor. We've been around, we've seen lots of issues in businesses over the years. We're in a great position of being able to see when a business is having a problem, and we learn the lesson and we can pass that lesson on to people so they can avoid the problem. There's certain things that reoccur quite often within businesses. So really the best thing to do is to take a decent business advice from somebody who knows what he or she is doing. I don't mean the bloke down the pub either. No.
So especially for younger people who are going into business, I suppose if it's that first business rather than their second or third business, that's when you have the biggest learning curve.
Yeah, even second or third businesses, sometimes what happens is people will do that and it's a different type of business. So the lessons that you learn from that are slightly different. And sometimes it's just useful to have somebody who isn't really involved as a sort of friend to the business who can say, have you thought about this? Or what do you reckon will happen if you do that? It's an exercise outside the business really.
It is. I've always found that invaluable myself in my businesses, someone outside looking in, because you can't see the wood for the trees some days when you work.
Quite often you're far too close to the problem and it just is dominating your head, isn't it? Yeah.
Fabulous. Great advice, John. Thank you for that. As I say, if you want to get advice or any information, go to nbv.co.uk. It's the website's full of information, as I showed earlier. So have a good look around there and then get in touch with John or one of the team, and I'm sure they'll be able to support you. Thank you very much, John. And let's now bring in John Holliday. John's from the Prince's Trust. Hi, John. How are you?
Good afternoon, Richard. I'm fine, thank you. A little bit hot like everybody, but in good spirits.
We're hitting 40 degrees in Lincolnshire today, aren't we? So
absolutely
leading the way in many things in Lincolnshire, including the heat. So,
yes.
So again, as with John, can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and obviously your involvement with the Prince's Trust?
Yeah, certainly. I work for the Prince's Trust. I'm now entering my 10th year. September will be my 10th anniversary of working for the Trust. Prior to that, I did a very short stint in the civil service, so I've got a bit of public sector knowledge as well. And before that, I was a journalist for 31 years, 18 of them working on the dear old Lincolnshire Echo in Lincoln as a sub-editor. So that's my background.
And then when did you join the Prince's Trust then?
So that's, so we're coming up for 10 years now. So 2012, that will be September 2012. So yeah, working on the enterprise programme as I have done for those 10 years, covering the whole of Lincolnshire. So it's quite a big patch. As we know, Lincolnshire is a fairly big county, and I do it from the Humber down to almost down to the Wash. So it's a fairly big patch.
It is a big region. Yeah. So tell us a bit about the enterprise programme. How does that work?
Well, the enterprise programme is, because we're a youth charity, is aimed at 18 to 30-year-olds. So that's the only sort of restriction we have, because being a youth charity. And to be eligible, you have to be working for fewer than 16 hours a week, or unemployed, or in education for 14 hours a week or less as well. Right. And the programme is called Explore Enterprise because it's very much looking at whether you want to start a business or not. At no point are you forced to do that, but it's just to give you the sort of information to decide whether that is right for you or not.
Okay. And again, what format does that take when people start with it?
Well, once they've got in touch with us, we'll invite them onto our 2-day online workshop. Again, much like John's NBV workshops, it used to be face-to-face before COVID struck, and then we went straight onto online. So the 4 days that we used to do face-to-face, we now do 2 days online pre-launch, and then 2 days post-launch of 2 days of workshop as well. So on that 2-day workshop, the pre-launch one, we'll run through all the different aspects of setting up and running your own business. So looking at things like selling, marketing, branding, pricing, taxation, the one thing along with death that's a certainty, you will get taxed at some point. Really, say at the end of the 2 days, I'll chat with you and we'll decide whether you think that's right for you or not based on the information that you've gathered from there.
Okay, and so that's what they'd come away with after 2 days. Someone who's been through that will come away with a view of nearly every area of their business then that they need to be aware of.
Yeah.
And then what's the ongoing support, and is there any funding involved that they can apply for?
There is, yeah. Happy to say, currently we have up to £1,000 of grant funding, so that's free money. I say the whole programme's free anyway, but the grant funding side of things is free money to cover startup costs. So it could be tools, equipment, insurance costs, marketing, whatever it is that you need. But in addition to that, if you needed more than that, you can apply for £5,000 of loan funding through the Prince's Trust, or it can go through the startup loans company beyond that as well. But it really depends on what your business idea is and how much you need for those startup costs.
Mm-hmm. And have you got any examples of local businesses that you've helped and supported?
Yeah, we've got quite a few dotted around the county. One I'm probably most proud of, because she's been trading nearly 10 years now. She's one of my first ones. Is a young lady called Gemma who runs Barber Black Sheep. What a great name for a hairdresser.
Barber Black Sheep, love it. Yeah.
And the reason it's called that is because she does wild and wacky hairstyles, sort of different colours and all sorts of things, aimed mainly at the student market. But she's set up in Lincoln. She's still got a hairdressing salon going, and she's taken on extra hairstylists. So doing really well, thriving. Alice, you'll hear about, she set up a childcare business. But others around the county, we've got a hairdresser in Skegness. I set up about 5 years ago. He's now got 2 salons on the go in Skeggy. We've got a young lady who sells online beauty products in Sleaford, cake business in Grantham, online gift shop, greetings cards in Boston. So it really is a wide spectrum of businesses all around the county.
Diverse, yeah, very much so. The key, what's the key, do you think, to the sustainability for the businesses once they've gone through? Because you obviously have got a lot of businesses you just mentioned there. What was the process for them, the ongoing support they got?
Absolutely. Once they've done the 2-day pre-launch workshop, we'll then work on the business plan together, make sure that's watertight. We've sorted out the funding support as well. They'll then do an online launch group, which is basically a half-hour chat with a panel of our volunteer business mentors. Sounds like Dragon's Den, but it's not half as scary as that. So once they pass through that, I'll get recommendation back, and that's effectively them launching. But as part of that post-launch support, there's another 2 days of online workshop for them as well. So another 12 hours of support. And again, looking at things like networking, accounting, finance, tax, really useful things for them. But also at that point, they're then assigned a business mentor for 2 years. So when it comes down to the sustainability side of it, I'm convinced that without that sort of support from our volunteer mentors for 2 years at that crucial startup pay stage, a lot of businesses would probably fail. So that's really, I think, the key to sustainability with the businesses that we've started.
Yeah, absolutely. That ongoing support and being there for them, I think it's important, isn't it? And again, like I said to John, is there any one piece of advice that you think can really help someone as they're going out on this journey, starting up in a business?
Yeah, my thing that I really hammer this, and it's doing thorough market research before you decide what business to go into. Because if you don't do that, you could fall flat on your face. So do anything that you can. Look at market trends, test trade if you can. That's really the ideal method. We do have a test trading grant available up to £500, which can be used for that. But if you can establish that there is a market out there, send out questionnaires to friends and family, put it out on social media. I'm thinking of doing this. Would you be interested? The more research you do, the more information you can gather together as to what sort of demand there is out there for your goods and services. That is really invaluable. So that would be certainly one of my top tips.
Fabulous. Right. Well, thank you very much, John. That's been really useful. And remember, if you want to get advice, go, like John said, to princes-trust.org.uk. Again, another website full of information for you. Thank you very much, John. And
You're welcome. Just the last thing, the workshops that we run, they are every month.
Every month. They're a monthly workshop.
Yeah, absolutely. And like John, we cover the whole of East Midlands. I've got colleagues out there doing exactly the same thing. In fact, nationwide, to be honest, because it is a national.
Okay. But using that website, they'll be able to tap in and they'll get pointed in the right direction.
Absolutely. Yes.
Amazing. All right. Well, thanks for your time today, John. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've heard now about the support, some of the funding available, the mentorship, the 2 programs that are available through NBV and the Prince's Trust. So now let's start listening to a couple of people who've been through this process. Firstly, I recorded a video with Alice Anders. Alice runs Tinger's Childcare, and as I said at the start of the show, she's been in business for just 3 months. So I'll just run the video in my conversation with Alice, and then after that, we'll also speak to Travis Speak from Elemental Landscapes. So just let me bring the video up of the interview with Alice. Okay, let's meet Alice then. Alice Anders. She runs Tinger's Childcare, and you're the first of our businesses, Alice. So nice to meet you. Just tell us a bit about your background before you got into running your own business. What were you doing before that?
Yeah, so I've always worked in early years nurseries. I have over 15 years experience, and it just came to a point where I felt like my passion, I wanted to have my own.
Your own business. So you've been working for 15 years in the industry, and you sort of thought the triggers, I really think I want to do this myself.
Yeah, I went into management. I've been room leaders before, and I've worked all the way from doing low qualification all the way through. So I built myself up in that confidence, and then wanting to open my own.
Smashing. And you spoke to John, I believe, at the Prince's Trust. What sort of support did they offer you then?
Yeah, so quite a bit of business support actually, from very early stages, even before I joined the programme, to try and get some support financially as well. So just general business support. There's a lot about well-being and how to start your business. That was really useful in keeping me focused on what I really wanted to do. So, focusing on that unique selling point, all those sorts of things to get you up and off the ground. And then, access to that funding as well is also really helpful. So
brilliant. Yeah. And so you've been in business how long now?
15 weeks this week.
So not even 4 months yet?
No, not fully.
And what's the challenges that you've come across in your first 4 months then?
Yeah, so we've kind of forecasted staffing might be an issue. We've not really had a staffing issue. We've had lots of applicants and they've been really great, really well received. Mainly like marketing and how we can get out into the public. We are very active on Facebook and social media. We recently got nominated for 2 awards as well, which was great. We became finalists for 2 awards across Lincolnshire. So we're really proud of that already. And yeah, just marketing, I think, is the key, really, for us.
And you're doing all your marketing yourself at the moment, and then in the future you're going to get more advice, are you? What's your plans for the marketing side?
We've had a bit of advice from various different people. So I've had advice from Prince's Trust as well about how to use social media and things. But yeah, it's early doors, because when you go into getting banners and things made, it costs money, which, you know, how can you see how many people come through that? Yeah, it's tricky balancing it.
It is for every business, I think. So, and then we talk about, well, obviously finding new customers is part of marketing. How did you find your early customers then? How were the first few people through the doors? Where did they come from?
A lot of word of mouth, hearing about us. We did have quite a few banners. We put on events, so we did a couple of open days for families to come to. It felt really nicely with the Jubilee, because we had a big family event, which lots of families came, even if their children weren't coming to the nursery. So that was lovely, well situated in the community. So yeah, it was really nice. But before we had children, we were going out into the community, just showing our faces as well. There's a lot to be said just about word of mouth through actually meeting people too, which was again something that I spoke to my mentor at Prince's Trust about, and he said, you know, why not go for it? You've got nothing to lose. It's free, isn't it? It's just your time. And if you've got time when you've not got, you know, customers, clients, you know, you might as well do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And is that how you're using your time then, to build that base of parents? You know, because I suppose that all the mums know each other, so it is, you know, like you say, word of mouth is probably going to be one of your main.
Yeah, I mean, initially, yeah. So getting out into the community, we spoke to a lot of people, we flyered. So that was something, you know, years ago, people would go around flyering. So we used that as a technique as well. And then Facebook's been a big one, but putting on events, definitely you can showcase what, you know, any business can showcase who they are and what they do through having an event or attending networking. But now we do solely remain and rely on Facebook, because we have legal ratios, so we have to be there for all the children. We can't just nip out. So
you can't just nip out a flyer and
yeah.
So, and what's the future? What are your plans for the next few years with the business then? Have you sort of forecast forward of what you want to do and how big you want to take it?
Yeah, I mean, Tingers, it's about the nursery and the high quality of care and education for the children and providing that. But we really want to break down barriers for families. We are fully inclusive, so families who have got children with additional needs, we really want to branch out further afield. Perhaps they might not live as local and, you know, further out, but it's just being able to signpost people to the right services, really. Even if they don't come to the nursery, we want to create that reputation that we're there to support. And that's why we work so closely with the local community as well.
Yeah, that community hub's important for you, is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
So let's talk a bit more about the Prince's Trust support you got then. So obviously there's financial support, there's advice. You said you've got a mentor. How does that work, the mentor side of things?
Yeah, so fairly early on before I opened, we'd have quite a few meetings. We did those initially so you can meet in a public place, so we met at a cafe and things like that, and just to discuss the next steps. So we'd set targets, and then at the next meeting we'd review if we've done anything towards those and then what the next steps were. One of the big ones for my mentor was seeing the transformation of the building that I found for Tingers, because it was just a shell, and then we changed everything, and then after a couple of months they came back out and had seen that difference. So yes, and also they have a very different background. So my mentor doesn't have any background in childcare, but they are in business, and I think the fundamentals of any business are the same. So it doesn't matter who your mentor is, as long as they've got that business background, and it's been really helpful.
And they look at the business, I suppose, from outside looking in, which is what you often can't do when you're in the middle of it all, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. When you've got such a passion for your own business, sometimes you might make decisions that are led by emotion, and actually they're not normally the right business decisions. So it's good to keep grounded with that person and run things by them. They're there for, I want to say, just guidance. They don't give you like advice of what you should do, because it's your business at the end of the day. You have to make that final decision. They can't be held accountable for your choices within your business. So they can just kind of guide and yeah, from their experiences.
Right, well, let's finish with any advice you can give to other people watching the show then that are setting it in business themselves. What's the one thing you'd say, do this or don't do this?
Okay, I'd probably say keep going. It gets harder before it gets better. I'm still in that patch of, oh goodness, what am I doing? And I'm 15 weeks in. As much as the passion outweighs all of that, there are still the financial decisions. They are still big decisions, and they do come. I think when I had my first open day and I had all the professionals that were involved, I remember saying, I know I haven't seen any of my friends for, probably over a year, but they were all there, they all still supported, and eventually you get that time back, but you have to put the time in to reap the time back. So.
It's a real commitment. Just keep going.
Keep
going through it. Lovely. Well, thanks for your time, Alice, and that's really good advice for anyone watching the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's meet Alice then. Alice Anders. She runs Tinger's Childcare. Right, so hopefully that was useful for everyone watching to hear Alice's story so far. As you can see, it's been quite a journey for her. Like many business owners, I think she's pretty typical of getting experience in a certain industry and then moving into doing it themselves. And I think certainly the next person we're going to talk to, Travis, who owns Elemental Landscapes, has a very similar story as well. So let's bring Travis into the show. Hi, Travis. How are you? You all right?
Thanks. Yeah, all good. How are you?
Very good, thanks, mate. Yeah, very good. So you've been in business nearly a year, or just over a year now, is it?
Yeah, so it was a year in June. Yeah, I was in business a year in June.
And what was your journey to go into start your own business up then? Where were you at school, and what was your sort of background?
So I used to live in a village called Minting towards Horncastle. So that's where I went to school and everything like that. Since then, I've moved to Foldingworth near Market Raisin. But in terms of education, when I left school, I started an apprenticeship in car and body repair, which wasn't for me. So after a year in doing that, I left that. Sort of got a job at a restaurant in the time being while I was looking for something I wanted to move into properly, and ended up landing on an apprenticeship in landscaping with a company based in Lincolnshire. So that apprenticeship went on for 3 years, which then led me to my next steps.
So who was that through, the college or something? Or?
Yeah, so that was through Rhizome College.
Right.
The apprenticeship was meant to be 2 years, but it sort of carried on. We hit COVID and it sort of overrun quite a bit. We got through it. I didn't quit.
No, you carried on. And so what was the trigger that then led you to moving from that into setting your own business up?
Well, there were certain circumstances that sort of led me to leaving my last job. And I sort of like the idea of being in control of my own destiny and taking my own problems into my own hands. And sort of just being in control of everything and striving for my own ambitions, basically. That's what I really liked the look of, and I liked the fact that I felt like I could do it because I enjoy it. So that's what sort of keeps me going with it.
So you had a real passion for what you were doing anyway.
Yeah, that's it. The passion grew over those 3 years, and I just thought I can take this to where I want it to. So that's
brilliant. And what did you in those first 6 months then? What was the challenges that you sort of came across? What were the things you thought, oh God, I've got to get through this now?
So it was all a bit of a surprise, because obviously sometimes you don't know things until you try them. So obviously I had the skills to implement, to be able to give people their garden design and install their gardens. But in terms of figuring out material quantities, project management, how long things are going to take, all those sort of things I'd never had any experience in. So they were sort of things that I've learned the hard way at times. I've had to do a lot of research into how to figure quantities out, because I'm not the brightest spark at maths. So all that sort of stuff has been a case of sort of trying to get it. It's been learning the hard way, just going through the grind and keeping going. Really, when I mess it up, it's on my own head.
So a bit like Alice said about keeping your head down and just keep pushing forward.
You just don't stop.
And so how did you find your first few customers? Because obviously you've set your own business up now. First thing you need is customers.
So my first customers were great. My very first customer was my family, which was my nan, and then which was nice. And then from there, I sort of just got myself out on Facebook, I used certain apps that send you job leads, and that was a way of getting my feet into the ground.
Yeah.
And then since then, it's sort of spiraled into people then recommending me. And yeah, the first customers were great. I've had no problems so far.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's going good.
Good. And you used John at NBV for support. How did they support you?
So I approached John, as he said earlier, around 2 months after being in business, and I found them out through the most weird situation of just sort of catching up with somebody in my village, and they recommended him because I was sort of explaining to this person who has a business himself and uses NBV.
Yeah.
I was explaining to him about how cash flow is a struggle, with having to pay for materials and everything, all sorts of like that up front.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him, and he said get some business advice from NBV, and they'll take you from there. And so I did. And then after that, I spoke to John. We spoke about putting things in place, so systems in place, so taking deposits, which then went on to taking a loan to help with the cash flow. So sort of had a chunk of it for the money to come out, for them to come back in.
Yeah.
And and it went from there. We wrote business plans. It was great. Yeah.
So how was the process of writing your first business plan?
So we had a template to sort of go off, and we sort of just filled it in. So there was things like competition in your area. Where do you want to be in 5 years? What do you have now? What do you want to have in 5 years? Things like that, really. So it sort of gave me a structure to work to. It's and then looking back on it, you can see how you followed it and how it's gone to plan, how hasn't gone to plan, what's changed, and you can keep editing it from there.
Did you do some financial forecasts in there and things like that as well?
Yes, we did. Yeah. So when applying for the loan, we had to create spreadsheets. So like a cash flow forecast, and then like a real flow forecast of the last 2 months I've been in business to sort of show how it's gone so far. And yeah, we created a 12-month cash flow forecast to be able to apply for the loan. So yeah, that was all involved.
Brilliant. Yeah. And so the biggest benefit of having that in place was that structure you were talking about. So you go back and revisit it and have a look at where you should be and where you are now. Yeah.
And I really think that helps, just because it's okay thinking about things, but actually getting your thoughts in writing really puts it in front of you. It's a bit of a weird psychological thing for me anyway.
Yeah.
Where you see what you've written, and it sort of gives you more of an ambition to work to it and say, this is what I wanted to do. I'm going to do it. If you ever have those patches where you're thinking, it's a bit groggy. It's there in writing. Gives everything structure.
It's powerful getting it down on paper, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what advice, I've asked everybody this, but what advice, Travis, would you give to anybody watching this show who's thinking of starting their own business up or is in the first few weeks?
So obviously what the two Johns have given before is definitely great advice, and I definitely recommend that. But also what we've just been talking about with putting things in plan, in writing, making a plan, just having that structure there is very helpful.
Good. I'm going to share your website as well, so everyone can see the Elemental Landscapes website.
Thank you.
So the web address again is elementallandscapes.co.uk. So if you go onto the website, you'll be able to see there what Travis does and get in touch with him as well. So really, really grateful for your time today and sharing your experience of starting up a business. Thank you very much, Travis.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Okay, well, I hope you found that useful. As well as NBV and the Prince's Trust, obviously Business Lincolnshire has a wealth of advice as well for you. So if you go to businesslincolnshire.com/start and grow my business, you'll be able to see there's plenty of information on there, funding and mentorships. So again, use the website, get as much information as you can. Visit NBV's website, go find Prince's Trust website, and go get as much information as you can. I think the best advice I've had best advice that I can give anybody is the same as John was saying, just do loads of research at the start. It'll just lay great foundations for what you've got ahead of you. And then things won't come as a surprise as well. So what Travis was saying about a plan is that you know what you should be expecting to happen and you can drive towards that. So that's the end of today's show. Hopefully you found it really useful. Certainly if you're thinking of starting up in business, there was plenty of advice there to help you with that. We're going to have the summer break, and looking at the heat today, I'm glad we're having a break for the summer. So we're going to be off in August, but the next live show is going to be Tuesday, the 20th of September. And we had a show a few months ago about the scale-up program, the business growth scale-up program called Next Level that Business Lincolnshire had launched. We're going to be revisiting that because the next few cohorts are coming up. So Tuesday, the 20th of September, again at 12 noon is the next show, and we'll be talking about the Next Level scale-up program. So I look forward to seeing you all then. Take care. Bye now.